Well, good afternoon, folks. On this sweltering late June day, we've got some mechanical work to do on the Mercedes today, the ML320, 1999. You've seen other videos of this. I only have the hood open for one reason, though. I need to loosen the cap on the master cylinder, because one of the three tasks I've got before me today is I need to replace my rear brakes and rotors on here. I've got a grinding noise going on back there, so I know I'm metal on metal and the pads have worn down to nothing. But I'm not complaining. When I got this car over 3.5 years ago, I did nothing with the brakes. The brakes worked fine until I think maybe about a year. I had to replace the front pads and rotors on there, and they've been working fine. But what's on the back is whatever was on the car when I got it. Like I said, 3.5 years and about 35,000 miles ago. So I don't know if they had new brakes on when I got it. I never checked. I just knew that they worked fine and they passed inspection, so I didn't really give it much thought. But now, after that much time, they've finally worn out, so it's time to fix those today. So that's one of the three items, and I'll show you here parts. The thing that I worried about most buying a Mercedes was how expensive were the parts going to be. Did I have to, get all this aftermarket stuff from, or excuse me, the original equipment parts from Mercedes? Was I going to have to get everything from Germany? Was it going to be a real expensive procedure? But what I found with the front brakes was no. I could just get regular brakes and brake rotors and pads at the auto parts store, and they worked fine. And so that's what I did again. I have a Advance Auto close to me, and they are tied in somehow with CarQuest. I don't know if they're both owned by the same company. I don't know. But basically all I did is I went in there and I looked them up online. Went in there. The closest one to me didn't stock them, but one just a little further away did. So, and they weren't any more expensive than rotors and pads that I put on my other vehicles. So, American-made cars or my Honda van and stuff. So it wasn't a hugely expensive procedure. These are just the standard rear rotors, nothing special about them, but they'll do the job for me. And then I got the gold level pads, rear pads. That's their mid-range quality ones. Let me pull one out and take a look here. As you can see, they're fairly thick as far as wear will go. I should get good wear out of them. So again, when you buy a box of brake pads like this, you get two sets, one for each of the rear wheels, and then I had to get two rotors. I don't know why it is the last couple times when I've gone in to do brake work at Advance Auto, different stores, different guys, but still, they come out with one rotor, and I say, no, I'm doing a brake job. I need two rotors. One box of pads, but I need two rotors. So at any rate, I'm good to go with that. So that's one of the things I need to do. Second thing, while I'm doing this, it's time to rotate tires. It's been a while since I've done that. All the tread on all four tires are good. I'm not expecting having to change anything or replace anything anytime soon, but it's time to do a rotation. It's been, I guess, over a year since I've done that. So I'll be doing that as well, and that's kind of lends itself, since I have to take wheels off anyhow for the brake job and for the other project. I'm having a problem again with my horns. They're not completely dead, but they're sounding kind of pathetic, and I think what's happening is we had an exceptionally wet summer last year. We have had an exceptionally wet summer so far this year. The winter was fairly wet. So I think there's been an awful lot of rust that's built up, and my contacts aren't that good. So in a previous video I showed the horn replacement. In fact, that's one of my most watched videos. I don't know what it is about replacing the horns on this thing that attracts people, but it has. So I'm going to try something a little different today. It's going to be kind of a feel-as-you-go project. If I think it's just the contacts getting a bit corroded, I will clean them up. I'll see if I can't, sand them up with emery cloth or something to make sure that the metal's good again. And then I found this product at Tractor Supply. Never used it before. It's called liquid tape. It's designed to give you a waterproof seal with electrical connections. It was in the the electrical department there, as far as like the lights and the switches and all the 12-volt stuff. So I'm going to give this a try and see if I can use the horns that are on there and just clean up the contacts and I get good strong horn sound. Then what I'm going to do is then I'm going to coat the contacts with this liquid tape and hopefully seal off the contacts from any kind of moisture. I mean, how well this works, I don't know. I've never used it. It says waterproof connections completely, so it does not peel or degrade, UV resistant, etc., etc. So, and they're showing it's used for things like, you know, motorcycles and boats and things like that, where you'd find a lot of moisture. So we'll see if this will do the trick. If the horns themselves are too far shot, if you know it's more than just the contacts that are corroded, I did go to Harbor Freight and get myself another set of those $10 horns. I think it's $9.99 or $8.99, can't remember, that I've put on here before that work well. Again, they're easy to put on. It's just the two-wire connect. Let's see, I don't know if you can see it through the package, but I'll pull them out later if need be. Just the two-wire connection, it's an easy job. You saw me describe it in the other video about changing the horns. So we'll see what I need to do with that, but that's going to be the third of my 3 projects here. I may break this video up into 2 parts for the brake job and the horns, I don't know, or maybe, I don't know, we'll see how it goes. But that's going to tie me up for the afternoon here. At least I'm out of the sun. My shop here in the barn is fairly cool considering it's just oppressive out there today. We got a little cloud cover now, but the sun was out earlier, so I tried to do some garden work, but forget it. It's like walking in the middle of the desert and at midday. It's just too oppressively hot. But I'll give you a garden update in another video. I haven't done anything since I showed you me plowing back in, what was it, the beginning of June, the end of May, I can't remember, but finally did get the garden in, but we'll talk about that in another video. So the first step here is I'm going to go side by side because of the way the jacks, the easiest way to use the jacks, because at one point I'll have to have 2 jacks under it for the front and the rear so I can do the tire rotation. But what I'll do is I'll start first with the front wheel here to pull that off, set that aside, and then I can work on this right-hand horn. Remember, the horns are up underneath the front bumper there. So that'll be the first step. Then as soon as that's done, I'll jack up the rear too, take that wheel off, and then come and put that tire on the front. And then I'll leave that jacked up while I do the brake job on that side. And then I'll get to the other side of the car and I'll do the same thing. So a bit of multitasking here, but since I don't have a lift to throw things on, I kind of have to work that way unless I want to make more work for myself. So, and as I said, the only reason that I have the hood open here, I don't have to do anything under the hood other than to open the cap for the master cylinder, because when you go to do a brake job, you'll see as I explain it to you, you're going to have to push the piston all the way in to get the caliper off and the new pads on, and so that pushes the hydraulic fluid back through a bit, so this way there's room for it to fill in without the cap in the way to pressurize it. You're not fighting the pressure in the line. So, and that's just something you do when you do a brake job. You just have to remember when you're done, put the cap back on. So we'll get to that when we get to the brakes. I'm going to start first with the horn on this side. So hang in there. I'll come back to you with some updates as I'm going through this. Hopefully this will go smoothly, but you just never know. So thank you for watching, and we'll keep you updated as we do this. Okay, first step was taking this tire off, or this wheel off. As you can see, the brakes on here on the front are still okay. I examined them a bit. They will need to be changed sometime, maybe next year, but they're okay at this point. I don't know how it works with an all-wheel drive Mercedes, but typically in a normal vehicle, normal two-wheel drive vehicle, 70% of your braking is done by the front brakes. So these are usually going to wear quicker. So I'm not going to get like 3.5 years out of these since I changed them, I'm sure. But they're adequate for now. I don't have to spend the time and the money replacing them at this point, but I will. And as if you remember, the previous video, we said that Mercedes doesn't have lug studs and lug nuts. It's got lug bolts. So you see, all you have is threaded holes there on your rotor and then into the spindle. And you can see there they are. Pulled them out using my electric torque wrench, or electric impact wrench. This one that I told you I got last year for Christmas, this Cobalt one. It's great. Don't need air. If you don't need to put air in the tires, you don't need to turn on the air compressor, just plug it in. There's the tire ready to be put on the back when I get to that point. And of course I also had to use my breaker bar here to break the seal on the lug bolts. So now the horn, as we said before, I'll show you it in place. Don't remember if I did this in the last video or not. You can see it's right up in there. And there's the bottom of the, there's the bottom inside of the bumper. So it's in a place where it's going to get a lot of moisture. So we'll see what we can do. We'll check on this. It's held in place by just that one little nut right there on the back center, and that metal strapping. The bolt sticks to the metal strapping. That's the only thing that holds it in place. So it's not hard to remove, and then it's just got the two contacts that are up in there. You can't quite see them. So I'm going to pull it out and we'll see. So that we'll come back to you when that's done and you can see the condition that they're in. Well, I'm a bit stumped. I pulled this off. As you can see there on the rear, that was the part that's facing the rear of the car where the nut is on there, or the bolt where the nut threads onto. You can see there's some corrosion around the rim there of where these nuts are here, or these screws are here, holding the horn assembly together. The contacts don't look corroded. But one thing that did happen is when I pulled this off and dropped this down, I had some water come splashing out. So I don't know, somehow some water must have got into this bell housing. I thought I had it pointed downwards so that shouldn't be a problem. I mean, yeah, you could get some spray from the road, but you think anything that would go up in there could just drop right back down. I don't know. So I am not going to mess around with these. For the $10 I spent for the new pair, it makes sense that we'll just put the new ones on. I will use that liquid tape on the contacts just in case there was some issue with that, and we'll try it and see what happens. Maybe it was just an extraordinarily wet year and this design is such that I'm going to have to keep replacing them. I don't know, I hope not, but that'll be the next move. I'll put the new one on and you can see that. Alright, the new horn is installed. It's just a little 10mm nut that holds it on there, and if you look right up in there you can see the little black gooey, I think you can see that from there, a little black gooey tape, liquid tape that I put on. The other contact is behind the strapping there, but hopefully that'll seal it off. We'll see if this makes a big difference. This liquid tape was pretty gooey stuff to work with, so we'll see how it works. But the horn is in. And just to verify, follow me here as I stumble around here. As you can hear, I've got a good horn tone again. So the connection's good now, so let's hope it stays that way. And I'll come back to you and show you the second one when I get to that. As I said, I'm going to be doing that rear brake first before I pull the other front tire. I'll just, because I have to do this rotation as well. So at any rate, thank you for watching this part of the video, and we'll come back to you with more.